challenge for him economically. The potential is there, but realizing that potential is going to require some very different policies from those in the past.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, because I wanted to get your assessment of that as the director of the Royal African Society. I mean, you talk to people about Nigeria, and presumably they talk about investment in this country and the possibility of building trade with this country. I'm just curious to know what the specific things they're looking for are. And you've mentioned a couple of them, obviously one of them being the fight against corruption and so on. But I'm wondering, beyond the challenges that you talked about, I mean, there are opportunities, for example, in the tech industries, perhaps even better there than the oil industry. I mean, over the long term, are you optimistic about the potential for Nigeria's economy and wider regional impact that it might have as a driver and an engine for growth?
I think I and many are very optimistic about the potential of the Nigerian economy. It has resources, it has land, it has people, it has an entrepreneurial spirit. But investors that I talk to are still skeptical that it is safe to put their money there. Because I think while the rule of law is reasonably well established, international investors fear for their reputation. They think it is quite difficult to do clean business in Nigeria, and as they're operating internationally, they can't afford to take that risk. Now, there are plenty of Nigerians willing to invest in Nigeria. We have the Tony Elumelu Foundation, you know, and many others. Dangote has just opened his massive new refinery. So there are people willing to invest, but there could be a great deal more if people felt confident that they could invest safely, securely, and cleanly in the country. Nigeria's economy could take off very swiftly if those kind of problems were resolved.
Very good advice indeed. Dr. Nicholas Westcott, I want to thank you very much indeed. I know you had a long day today, and we appreciate your taking the time to come in and talk to us. And of course, he is a former British diplomat, the current director of the Royal African Society, also a research associate at the Centre for International Studies and Diplomacy at the University of London. That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja and around the world, bye-bye and thank you for watching.
Every day, life presents hopes, dreams, and challenges. Challenges that can become successes with a little help. Because a little help can empower you to go from despair to celebration. A little help can keep you going until the race is won. A little help can turn bundles of anxiety into a bundle of joy. And with Glow Data, you get much more than just a little help. You get the biggest data deals in town to make every day glow with small wins and big wins. Dial *777# to select your Glow Data plan.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, will conduct the 2023 general election using the Bimodal Voter Accreditation System, BVAS. On election day, the BVAS equipment will be used to accredit voters by verifying their fingerprints or facial photographs. In each polling unit, every voter must be verified and authenticated before they are allowed to vote. Any intending voter whose fingerprint or facial photograph is not verified by the BVAS equipment equipment will not be able to vote. With this, one man, one woman, one vote is assured, as no one can engage in multiple voting, neither can anyone use the voter cards of another person to vote. After polling, the BVAS equipment will also be used to transmit election results electronically from polling units to the INEC result viewing portal for everyone to see. BVAS will eliminate multiple voting, identity theft, or impersonation. The BVAS will guarantee one man, one woman, one vote. INEC, making your vote count, consolidating our democracy.
This message is brought to you by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the Osiwa Africa Foundation.
Knowledge is power. Information is currency. Trust us to tell you what you need to hear. Welcome to the program. You're with Arise News in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Breaking news, exclusive interviews, unrivaled analysis. It's you, the audience, who drives our agenda. We tell the stories that inform you, the stories that are important to you, and the stories that are about you. We are not every news channel. We are Arise News.
A very warm welcome, everyone. This is Newsnight, where we bring you the biggest stories of the day from here in Nigeria and around the world. I am Ngozi Alebu.
And I'm Sulaiman Alede. Coming up over the next hours.
We won the election, and we will prove it to Nigerians.
The dust over Saturday's presidential election results is yet to settle, as Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi say they will challenge the declaration of Bola Tinubu as president-elect.
As House of Representatives Majority Leader Al-Hassan Doguwa remains in prison custody, the police in Kano interrogates another lawmaker for unlawful possession of a firearm.
And following complaints of shoddy performance during the presidential election, Nigeria Police strategizes for the next phase of the election, holds town hall meeting in Lagos.
At a G20 meeting in India, top US and Russian diplomats in face-to-face talks on the war in Ukraine. The frosty encounter ends without a final declaration.
And South African Paralympic champion Oscar Pistorius, who killed his girlfriend 10 years ago, will know in a month if he's eligible for parole.
We begin tonight with the row over Saturday's controversial presidential election. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has rejected the election results, saying the poll was the worst in Nigeria's history. Atiku said the elections were largely flawed and should be challenged. Atiku also said the Labour Party candidate, Peter Obi, could not have won the presidential election as he did not have the constitutionally required spread needed to be declared president.
Preliminary assessments indicate that it is the worst conducted election since the return to democratic rule. The manipulation and fraud that attended this election was unprecedented in the history of our nation. I can still not understand why the electoral umpire was in such a hurry to conclude collation and announcement of the results, given the number of complaints and irregularities of bypassing of the beavers, failure of uploading to the IRV, and unprecedented cancellations and disfranchisement of millions of voters in breach of the Electoral Act and the Commission's own guidelines. It was indeed a rape of democracy. Having consulted with leaders of our party who are seated here with me, and Nigerians from different walks of life, I have come to the conclusion that the processes and outcome of the Presidential and National Assembly elections of last Saturday was grossly flawed in every material particular, and as such must be challenged by all of us.
And the Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi has finally broken his silence over the conduct and outcome of the election. Instead, he says he will challenge the result in court and restore the mandate he says was stolen from him. Arise correspondent Omo Bazwaye reports.
All eyes had been on the presidential candidate of Labour Party, Peter Obi, since the presidential election last Saturday. No words about the election had directly come from him regarding the outcome, and his silence was beginning to trouble a few, especially his supporters. Labour Party had on a number of occasions rejected the outcome of the election, but many still wanted to hear from the man, Obi himself.
This election, as you know, did not meet the minimum standard expected of a free, transparent, credible, fair election. It will go down as one of the most controversial elections ever conducted in Nigeria. And I assure you that good people of Nigeria that will explore all legal and peaceful action to reclaim our mandates. We won the election, and we will prove it to Nigerians.
The Labour Party presidential candidate says he's determined to drive the process to a logical conclusion and that he has confidence in the judiciary to retrieve his mandate. The former governor of Anambra State also states that he's not in any form of alliance with the People's Democratic Party, PDP, nor under any form of pressure not to restore his victory. Obi polled a total of 6.101.533 million votes to come third in the elections, a result he and those with him in the Labour Party consider at best a daylight robbery. Omo Bazwaye, Arise News.
In the meantime, the APC has accused Peter Obi of playing the victim in an election he could never have won. In a statement, the APC's Presidential Campaign Council spokesperson Festus Keyamo claims that Obi played the most divisive religious politics. He says it's the first time people who came second and third in an exam claim they came first.
Well, one other party, the Social Democratic Party, has accepted the outcome of the presidential election and Tinubu's victory. But the SDP says there were some abnormalities in the conduct of the elections. The party says it will go to court and contest the results of the Senatorial and House of Representatives elections.
The INEC, as an institution bestowed with the power of conducting election, have declared a winner. We in the SDP, despite the shortfall, as I've mentioned, beavers problem, transmission problem, we stand by the declaration pending the outcome of the court judgment. We need to keep Nigeria one. God have not created perfection anywhere. On this ground, we are standing by what INEC have done, and we are recommending to all those, including we in SDP, that disagreed to challenge it in the court of law. For his impressive outing and running and daring issue-based campaign, we also congratulate our revolutionary and distinguished ambassadors in the race who won 2 senatorial seats, 5 houses of assembly. We are also expecting 5 houses of assembly. We are expecting from Taraba, from all our sources, we won 1 Senate, 1 House of Reps as well.
President of the Nigerian Bar Association, Yakubu Mikel, who is also a senior advocate of Nigeria, joins us now to make lucid some of the issues highlighted here in the news. Well, there is quite an interesting perspective because finally the political party, specifically the PDP, has said it will go to court. And the arguments are there. So it's the best time to speak about these before they become subjudice. Now, let us understand some of the key complaints that these people, because the bar also monitored the election. You were here before the big day. So let us in on what you were able to glean on Saturday.
Well, on Saturday, and thank you very much for having me, by the way. On Saturday, we monitored, or rather we observed the election across the country. We had our members, over 1,000 of them accredited by INEC, observed the election across the country. We also encouraged our members who went to vote themselves because they are leaders in their own rights. Whatever they observed at the polling units, we also asked them to send us reports to the Situation Room at the NBA House. And we had free toll lines and toll-free lines where we received those complaints, and also we had applications that accepted pictures that were uploaded and videos across the country. So the general complaint that we found was late arrival of materials to the polling station, late arrival of polling officials. I also went round on that Saturday here in FCT. And as at 11 a.m. in certain polling units, in fact, we went to a certain rack here in Garki where they were supposed to be moving to their various polling units. And we still found some of them still waiting to go to their polling units at 11 a.m. Of course, there were also reports that polling materials did not arrive some local governments, particularly Warri South local government. It was the case the whole of that day. But what we did was to intervene in terms of speaking to INEC and letting them know that these were the things, the reports that we got from our observers across the country. And I must commend INEC. In those specific instances that I had cause to speak to them, the national commissioners, they acted swiftly and they intervened, and the things that were not in those polling units, they made them available. So, but of course, there were reports of infractions here and there across the country, which we also made known in our interim report that we gave. On that day, we had a pre-noon report, and subsequently, in the course of that day, we also reported on the basis of what our colleagues across the country reported. So, but we're here today with declarations of results, and we have a president-elect as declared by INEC, to whom a certificate of return was issued. And that's where we are today.
Great. I would like to, get your reaction to the conference held by Peter Obi and Atiku. Both of them apparently are saying that they will go to court. What are your, what's your assessment generally of their position and how to put it forward?
I am glad at what they said. That is the most civilized thing to do. As of today, a declaration has been made about who the president is on the basis of the process that INEC undertook on Saturday, the 25th of February, 2023. And there is a presumption of law that endures for that process. Having so declared the result, there is a presumption, which is rebuttable though, that everything that needed to be done for that declaration to be made, that is to say, for Bola Ahmed Tinubu to be declared as president in the process of the election, had been so done. It's a presumption of law that goes in favor of that declaration that was made. But like I said, it's rebuttable. And that is where what Peter Obi said, what Atiku said, also become relevant. Because so what they are saying, in essence, is that they are going to take up the matter in court in order to rebut that presumption that endures to the result that has been declared by INEC.
But isn't it troubling where the judiciary, at the end of the day, has to be the final arbiter of the outcome of elections rather than the ballot box? What does that really mean for our democracy?
It's a misconception to think that the participation of the judiciary in the process of the election of our leaders, those that have expressed desire to be elected into any of the constitutional offices, that the involvement of the judiciary is outside of the process of election. It is not. The settlement of dispute, electoral dispute, is part of the election process. And it is only the courts or the tribunals, as the case may be, that have been constitutionally assigned that responsibility. So the process of election does not end at the polls and the declaration. In fact, taking disputes arising from that process to court is also part of the election process. So it doesn't end at the polls and with the declaration. So, and so it's nothing of concern. It's a constitutional responsibility. Nobody is allowed by law to take an assessment of what has happened and make a conclusive remark or pass judgment on what has happened except the courts. So we do not have anywhere to go to as a civilized nation within the framework of our constitution other than to take every grievance to the tribunals and the courts.
But you agree that the judiciary will also be in the dock?
Well, I mean, as between,
like
someone said, an Indian judge at his valedictory, he said, whenever there is a dispute between parties, the parties before the court, they know the truth. It is only the judge that is on the trial. Of course, that a dispute like of this nature is taken to court like any other dispute.
Let me bring in something that should be of concern to you and the bar, and it has to do with, I mean, you interact with everyday Nigerian, and how do you feel, or how does the bar feel when you hear words like, oh, the courts won't get fairness or won't get judgment?
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing of concern because there must be confidence in the judicial process for the public to be able to accept the product of that judicial process. So I mean to say, if any dispute is taken to court, the process through which adjudication happens, you bring your complaint, you bring your response, the product must be acceptable to the public. And the only way they can accept that product is if they have confidence in the process. Yes, for so many things that have happened in this country, the public confidence in the judiciary has been eroded. But whether those things that have been said about the judiciary that has caused that lack of confidence in the judiciary are true is something that is also of a bigger concern. Because the judiciary has been vilified, the judiciary has been bombarded with all sorts of, and I say this advisedly, spurious allegations without proof. And that is why my concern has always been that whenever there are cases of perceived compromise of the judiciary, you should be mindful of the things that you say. Because here we are all concerned about these allegations and counter-allegations about the process of the election. And the only place to go to, constitutionally, is to go to the court. And so whenever we speak in a manner that derogates, in a manner that desecrates that temple of justice, because you have perceived or suspected that some persons who are on that platform today have compromised without recourse to the impact of that your comment, then it becomes even worrisome, more worrisome than what we say. And I make this point because, like I would always say, whenever you take away the judiciary from the process, from this polity, and you only leave the executive and the judiciary, what will be left, and the legislature, what you'll be left with is chaos. Because whatever happens and whatever disputes that you have, the only resort that is available to you is self-help. If you have a dagger, you use it. If you have a Dane gun, you use it. So in this particular situation, the concern really is more about how we have abused, vilified the judiciary without any proof. There are maybe about 100 and maybe 1,000 or 1,005, let's assume we have 1,005 judges and justices in this country. How many of those ones have been convicted of any wrongdoing? And look at the percentage of those that have been found to have committed any wrong in the course of their responsibilities compared to the ones that have not. And is it fair to conclude that the judiciary of this country is corrupt? That is the bigger problem as far as I'm concerned.
It is, but you know what they say about perception is stronger than reality. And the question is, has the judiciary been able to beam the searchlight on itself so it can remove the bad eggs? Maybe you can respond to that. But back to the issue of the Electoral Act and how, in the eyes of many people, the INEC, the electoral umpire, seem to have, set aside the Electoral Act in the conduct of the election. The issue of uploading, results on the, on the PU. Ahmed Lawan, the President of the Senate, says there is no provision in the Electoral Act for the electronic transmission of results, but electoral transfer. Help us understand exactly what the Electoral Act says as far as that's concerned.
I would beg that you spare me rendering opinion. I'm a lawyer.
Okay.
But I'm also the president of the bar. Anything I say here, I represent the position of the bar.
Right.
But all I would admonish, anyone who has any grievance, and I listened to what Ahmed said, he also concluded by saying that they are not a court, and it is only the court that can render a decision one way or the other. So parties have indicated a desire to submit their disputes to court, and I commend that rather than call your supporters on the street. Right. Go to court is the civilized thing to do. Bring your proof, demonstrate to the court that you actually won this election, and also take your case to the courts or to the tribunals to say that, it is transmission, there is a requirement. What did the electoral say? Or if it wasn't done by the presiding officer, what is the consequence? Does it vitiate the election?
We're not done. We're not done yet. We'll take a moment. Yes, I will come back. Still to come, more here on the news.
Yeah, we'll speak, of course, the NBA president is still with us on what the organization is doing to prosecute election offenders. Very important point.
I've been running my business on my own, trying my best to get it to the next level, but I really need some help to get ahead. I know just what to do, I'll vote it for my loans, overdraft, step by step to my dream business with Volt. Volt is the answer. Salary earners, entrepreneurs, get your loans with no collateral. Volt is the answer. Quick sign up, zero paperwork, step by step to your dream business with Volt.
Vault is available to individuals, SMEs, and corporate customers. Download Vault by Polaris Bank from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to get started today.
Every day, life presents hopes, dreams, and challenges. Challenges that can become successes with a little help. Because a little help can empower you to go from despair to celebration. A little help can keep you going until the race is won. A little help can turn bundles of anxiety into a bundle of joy. And with Glow Data, you get much more than just a little help. You get the biggest data deals in town to make every day glow with small wins and big wins. Dial *777# to select your Glow Data plan.
Brother Jumble, why you dey fumble? You no need to dey suffer to send money, oh. Carry phone, make you dial the number 894. Make you know they wait. 894. No need to dey stand for line. 894. It is safe and secure. 894 for me. 894 for you. 894 for Nation number that could change your whole world. 894. It no matter if you don't get data. 894. Just pick your phone and dial the number. 894 for me. 894 for you. 894 for Niger.
Dial *894# to get started.
You fast, fast, fast.
Foreshore Waters has delivered, and we are still delivering homes in the best locations in Lagos. Even with the current economy, we are creating affordable housing options in Banana Island, Ikoyi, and environs. Now, we are bringing you an unbelievable opportunity to own fully built homes in Osborne, Ikoyi. You can own a 3-bedroom apartment with 39.99 million naira initial deposit, or a 4-bedroom maisonette for 59.99 million naira initial deposit. All homes are fully built in Osborne. You can move in immediately after your first deposit and spread the balance while you live in. Join the League of Luxury Homeowners in Lagos today. For more details and enquiries, visit www.fwl.ng.
Welcome back, everyone. You're still watching News Night. A magistrate court in Kano has remanded House of Representatives Majority Leader Alhassan Ado Doguwa to prison custody pending his bail application. Doguwa is standing trial on several offenses, including criminal conspiracy, culpable homicide, unlawful firearm possession, mischief, and public disturbance. He is remanded in custody until March 7 for the bail application hearing.
Another lawmaker in Kano, Aliyu Sani Madaki, has been invited by the police for questioning on suspected unlawful possession of a firearm. He is being investigated at the State Criminal Investigation Department, Kano State Police Command. Now, this was confirmed by the State Police Public Relations Officer Abdullahi Haruna Kiawa.
Well, Saturday's election saw pockets of violence in some states around the country. Well, the Nigeria Bar Association says it has constituted a legal team of over 300 lawyers to prosecute electoral offenders. Well, the NBA president is still very much with us, Yakubu Mekiao, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you so much for staying with us on Newsnight. Let's talk about the 300-man committee. That's quite a lot to address election offenses.
It looks like a gift to the Nigeria.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so just take us back to, just to provide a bit of context. We had a dialogue, a national dialogue, and that national dialogue was motivated by the understanding of who we are to the society. And one of the statements that actually motivated that dialogue was the statement by Sir Sapara Williams, who said, the legal practitioner, and I like quoting it because it reminds us of who we are. Once we come to the place of understanding our identity, then we'll begin to function in that understanding and we can bring value to the society. And he said that a legal practitioner lives for the direction of his people and for the advancement of the cause of his nation, of his country. There is no better place and in no better process would you show direction and also participate in the advancement of the cause of the nation than in the electoral process. It's the only means by which we can choose our leaders. And from that understanding, we know that we cannot continue to ask for fees to do our job. No. We cannot continue to ask for fees to do our job. The legal profession is one of the three original professions that fees were never paid. The clergy, the medical profession, and the legal profession. That's why it was preserved or reserved for the aristocrats, those who can afford it, people of means. The lawyer is primarily concerned about providing remedy whenever there is an injury. That's why if you watch our gown, there is a little pouch there, and you drop coins without even knowing who was dropping the coins, you know, in your pouch, just in appreciation of their service. And you finished what you did because you found an injury somewhere and you knew that within the legal framework, remedy has to be provided. And it is you who is trained as a lawyer that has what it takes to do that. So we've decided to say that understanding our identity means that we have to speak for the people. And speaking for the people in the context of electoral offenses is to say that we abhor it, we condemn it. It is not something that is acceptable wherever there is an infraction of the law that constitutes an electoral offense. And that is provided in the Electoral Act, the nature of the conduct, how it is described as an offense contained in the Electoral Act. Where such a conduct is found to be an electoral offense, we are prepared to support INEC.
And your observation team, talking about now you know what constitutes an electoral offense.
Yeah, they are all prescribed in the
so
law.
in this last election, have you been able to compile some of these?
Yes.
And
yes.
Give us a sense of, you know, the numbers without being exact from
Right.
areas where you got some of those offenses.
Yes, so we had instances of ballot snatching. We had instances of where people just went into the polling unit area and destroyed the polling materials and all of that. And we also saw cases, I mean, the EFCC were able to also arrest persons who were collecting account numbers at polling units, you know, to transfer monies to them. We found those reports. We found those reports.
Wow.
So these are infractions within the context of Part 7 of the Electoral Act, where electoral offenses were defined. So what can we do? Under, I think, Section 145, it says that INEC will prosecute those offenses, or it would give permission to legal practitioners. We've made this commitment to INEC. So for any of those offenses that have been found to have been committed, those that have been alleged to have committed those offenses, they would eventually be charged to court, will be involved. We are making our men available pro bono, understanding the fact that that is what we are primarily called to do, to serve the people. And we are going to do this prosecution pro bono of the cases of infractions that are filed in court.
Well, you call them infractions, and I'm thinking this allegation against a well-known lawmaker, how will you be dealing with such cases of murder, alleged murder, arson, public disturbance, firearm possession? And
well, so
like
in a single set of facts, you can have several offenses in them. So electoral offense would have been committed, and then if there is a taking, unlawful taking of life, that is also culpable homicide in the North. Culpable homicide punishable with death. If it's a taking of life that was unintended, is one that is not punishable with death. Just the case, the same way you have murder and manslaughter in the southern part of the country. So these are all criminal offenses. So the Attorney General of the state has the power to deal with those issues of murder, of arson, and cases will be filed, charges will be filed, information will be filed against these individuals, stating the facts of what they have done and the punishment, and they will be arraigned in court. So the Attorney General of the state, if it's a state offense, or the Federation, as the case may be, would give fiat. We are prepared as a bar to also make our men available, and these are people that have experiences in in prosecution, and we are also working with INEC to provide training for lawyers, because you can't have enough of that, just to prepare the lawyers to do that. So these are cases that we are prepared to take on if we are given the opportunity to do so, but we are on standby to do them. And like I said, beyond just the electoral offenses, these are criminal offenses that the Attorney General...
And quickly here, looking at the numbers of electoral offenses or infractions, is it safe to say we're getting better?
Or worse?
Well, I think for many who even engaged in some of the actions that constitute electoral offenses, like ballot snatching, there is no longer an incentive to do that, because processes have been put in place in the extant Electoral Act that makes it senseless for anybody. There is no motivation. There is nothing you can achieve by snatching a ballot paper. There is nothing you can achieve by taking ballot papers to go and thumb print, because the process is that there is a BVAS for every polling unit. Before you are given a ballot paper, you would have been verified and confirmed to be the person who is on the register of voters in that polling unit.
Right.
And then you go to vote. So, I mean, there is no way you can have...
But we also witness, we also witness overvoting. So that puts a big question mark on whether BVAS was used.
Well, so I mean, there are instances where BVAS, the use of BVAS, the polling officials did not use BVAS. So in that particular case, you are likely to find issues of overvoting. Find people who have voted over and above the number of...
But would you say, before we let you go, would you say it's an incentive to those who want to violate the electoral process that in many cases, prosecution, successful prosecution of these criminals, is hardly put out there? Is that a challenge as far as that's concerned?
We wouldn't call them criminals. You call them criminals only after they are convicted. Offenders, if you like, yeah. So it takes a lot to prosecute. And there are several processes. The investigation. Do you have the evidence? Someone may have done something. You may have witnessed what that person did at the point in the polling unit. But whether the evidence necessary for the successful prosecution of that person have been collated, and even after that, the presentation of the evidence too before the court is something that accounts for the success or otherwise of the prosecution. So there are a lot of factors that you have to consider. In many cases, it's not because either INEC or the prosecuting authorities are not interested in prosecuting, and that is why you don't have success. But there are quite a lot of factors you have to take into consideration between the point of the commission of the offense, prosecution, and the eventual conviction or discharge of the person who is alleged to have committed that offense. So we have to have a combination of all these factors in place, proper investigation, collation of evidence, understanding the law and what you need to do to successfully prosecute, present the evidence before the court, the right knowledge of the court.
You have your job cut out for you and your team. We would like to thank you for your time, as well as the other 300 who have ensured to do this pro bono for Nigerians. Yakubu Mekel, President, Nigerian Bar Association.
Thank you very much. I just want to admonish Nigerians that we need to continue to put our confidence in the judiciary, because that is the only arm of government that can sustain this country for us to continue to have our aspirations expressed.
Very reassuring. Thank you so much for putting that out there. We'll take a short break. Coming up, governorship elections are just over a week away, but how are the police and security agencies doing to ensure safe polls? Stay with us.
What is really happening in Akamata Market? It seems these people don't want the election to hold.
I hope you're broadcasting to the world must hear.
No. Is that how you people share sensitive news like that without verifying it? If I may ask, which news platform published the news?
Jojo sent it though.
Jojo? Is that not not the same Jojo that posted a fake election result the last time that almost caused a riot.
You know they forget something.
No. In this election season and after, one must be very careful. Or do you want to set the country on fire?
Haba!
Fake news is a threat to a free and fair election and to peace and security. So, before you share any news, check to be sure the source is credible. Check if there are supporting credible sources. Read beyond the headlines. Check the author. Check the date. Check your biases. Ask an expert or send to a fact-checking organization for confirmation. Say no to fake news. This message is brought to you by the Centre for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the UK government.
*131*8*1# today.
If you just joined us, you're welcome. You're watching News 9 here on Arise News. Now, the Police Plains Electoral Observation Mission in Nigeria has described the just concluded presidential and National Assembly elections as a sign of the country's political maturity. Presenting the preliminary report on the election, the head of the mission, Colonel Johannes Makuvia, describes the exercise as peaceful. Makuvia says the process confirmed with international standards, adding that the security forces' discreet presence in most polling centers allowed for the peaceful conduct of the voting process. The mission also wants civil societies to continue civic education and citizen awareness to strengthen inclusive participation.
Governments take the necessary measure for greater participation of civil society in the entire electoral process. To INEC, continue interactions with candidates and party to build confidence, which in turn will strengthen the social fabric, strengthen the capacity of election staff. To the candidate and political actors, use legal channel in the event of challenges. Favor political dialogue in all circumstances to perpetuate social justice, social peace. Ensure a better training and representations of their delegates and agents and militants in the polling stations.
And police in Lagos say they are reviewing Saturday's elections to prepare for the governorship and state assembly polls on March 11. It is coming on the heels of reports of security breaches in the state during and after the elections. Arise correspondent Tokumbo Yetunji reports.
The presidential and National Assembly elections have been concluded, but the issues and analysis of the exercise remain, especially since there is still another leg of the general elections taking place in less than 2 weeks. This event in Lagos is put together to review the security and safety aspects of last Saturday's election in the state with the largest prospective voters. The police is the lead security agency in Nigeria's electoral process. A review of their performance last Saturday comes with mixed opinions, with some applauding, while others think the officers and men still have much to prove to earn the public trust in policing the process.
Who is the boss of the Commissioner of Police? Who does he report to?
And how does that affect the exercise of his duties? That is one. Secondly, how is it possible that a police officer, in the exercise of his duty at a polling unit, is unarmed? Also, are we getting assurances that electoral officers that are refusing to comply with what the law states as per transmission of results, are we getting any assurances that they will be arrested for interfering with the process of the law?
Questions and clarifications, the reason for the engagement, which puts critical parties across the table. It is more desirable because since the conclusion of the exercise last Saturday, the Lagos police have responded to not less than 70 security-related call-outs. Although there were few instances where the calls were genuine, but nearly 80% of the calls was informed by mere apprehension and misinformation, and that's a cause for worry.
The few instances that turned out to be real were likely attempts by misguided local urchins to threaten citizens at specific locations. Such were localized, uncoordinated, and unpremeditated, and were all promptly mitigated by the police, while several arrests were made. In addition, we have also upscaled our deployments across all identified flashpoints and vulnerable localities, while also sustaining patrols and visibility policing across the public space in order to reassure Lagosians of their safety and deter possible mischief makers from manifesting any plan that might be inimical to peace and security across the state.
You should have a very long and peaceful reign in Lagos.
Many in the hall praised the police for rising up to the calls and other prompt responses during the elections on Saturday, but then they raised more questions.
Lagos is what lawyers will call the primus inter pares, the first among equals. And I'm going to suggest, Honorable Commissioner, all those who were arrested by your men and women last Saturday have to be charged before the court, if possible before the end of the week, so that other criminals will know that if you try to disrupt the election coming up on their level, you are going to be charged before the court and you are likely to be put away so that we can exercise our democratic rights. I want to say finally, there's a lot of tension in Lagos State. There's a lot of tension. And we are going to appeal to our people, all the various ethnic groups in Lagos. We are going to appeal to you, to appeal to our people, to cooperate with the police, so that people can live together in peace. Nobody should be harassed or intimidated for voting for candidates of their choice. It's a democratic right. If you win today or lose today, you can win tomorrow or lose tomorrow. So please, let nobody harass anybody for exercising their democratic right. And apart from the police, if anybody harasses you for voting for a candidate of your choice, let me know. I will file an action on your behalf.
We want assurances. We want show of force before the gubernatorial election. We want to know that Lagos police is not under the wings and caprices of political leaders, but that they are for the people.
I want to plead that we must stay the course. We must never give up. The ability to prevail is in us. We must find it. And prevailing is ensuring that the center of excellence remains as it is, where justice, peace will reign at all times. Anyone that has any grievances with this kickstarting of the town hall that the CP has done, and with our media men gathered here today, and all the faces I see here, I know there is hope. And the center of excellence by March 11 will come and will top first in terms of security, in terms of life preservation, not wasting of life, and in terms of peace and tranquility.
I saw police officers do work, and was saying, can we repeat that same work all across Lagos on the 11th of March?
Now that the aftermath of February 25 on the cosmopolitan city is being managed, one key point identified to improve on the situation is collaboration. And as attention gradually shifts to March 11 for the more locally rooted election, not a few Nigerians residing in Lagos, as echoed here, want a reassurance that the balloting will not come with a single drop of blood of any Nigerian, no matter who emerges victorious at the end. Tokunbo Oyetunji, Arise News, Lagos.
Thanks very much, Tokunbo Oyetunji there. Well, we're joined now by former Commissioner of Police, Lawrence Alobi. He was CP right here in the FCT. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight. I'm sure you listened to that report and you've made sense of some of the issues that were raised there. But let me begin by asking you exactly what were the security agencies meant, what role were they meant to play at the elections, in terms of manning and all of that, the mass deployment of equipment and what have you? Did it live up to expectation in your estimation?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Bedford. Let me correct you. I'm not former. I'm a retired commissioner of police.
Right.
Once a commissioner of police, you are commissioner of police until death.
Thank you very much for making that connection.
Your question, you ask if the policemen did what they ought to do. I think they did what they ought to do, to a large extent. Because for what I saw, the last I saw, for me, no sentiment, no emotions. It's my constituency, but I also had to tell them what they ought to do to guide them. You see, one attribute of a police officer is courage. You have to be courageous and assert yourself when doing your duty. Again, the Electoral Act 2022 as amended, Section 57 and 58, make the police to be impotent at a polling station. 57 says the polling officer can order the arrest of anybody who impersonates as a voter. Section 58 says the polling officer, that's the returning officer, can ask the police to remove anybody any disorderly behavior, any person who behaves disorderly in a polling station. That one, 58, not even say arrest, say remove. So these are some of this provision of the Electoral Act 2022. It makes the police to be a bit impotent. Because it says the act is the electoral officer who will ask the police to arrest, as provided under Section 57, 1 and 2. The 58 also says that it's the same electoral officer who will ask the police to remove anybody who acts disorderly behavior in the police station.
So on their own, they can't remove you. That's what 57 says.
Sorry?
I said on their own, they can't remove someone
that's what the law says.
Who is in breach.
It's a breach. So the police are made to be impotent. Like I saw the question they asked in the social media, they asked the CP of Kano State about a minor who was sent to be voting. It's not his duty. It's the duty of the landing officer to say, arrest him, like provided the law. So people sometimes blame the police because of ignorance. The law is there. The police is meant to enforce the law. The difference between electoral offense and criminal offense. Criminal offense, for instance, if a police officer sees you with a rifle in a polling booth, he has the power to arrest you. That's going armed in a public place. Or see you stabbing somebody with a dagger or a knife, he has power to arrest. That's criminal offense. It's probably like under the penal code and criminal code. But the act, the Electoral Act 2022 as amended has limited the powers of the police. They are there to be seen and not to be heard, like a statute, which makes the police to be impotent.
Is it not in order to check the likely excesses of the police, considering the kind of relationship that the police and civilians have had over the years?
No, but that is the consequence of that provision of the law. So people now blame the police. They saw somebody like that man in Kanu, that they saw a minor voting, the police don't do anything. Or somebody said the act says it's only the electoral officer who asks the police to arrest anybody come to impersonate as a voter, or anybody who behave disorderly in a polling station.
It looks more like a loophole deliberately left there, because I'm looking at it now, and Commissioner Alobi, you're very correct.
Yeah.
And one wonders, a busy polling officer.
Exactly.
At what point would you be able to say, come and help make arrest?
And leave what is doing.
And leave what you're doing. So in this case, now, for electoral offences and for those that were captured on camera, fomenting trouble and just causing some kind of disruption, can the police also make arrests on account of some other laws, like maybe public disturbances?
No, like they said, Section 58 says disorderly behavior with public disturbance.
Yes.
Yes, and only the electoral officer can order the police to remove the person, not even to arrest. They must remove. You remove me, we don't arrest him. We remove him and leave him to go, not even to arrest him and prosecute him. Arrest and prosecute him. So the law, there's a lacuna there, and that's not the police not to be blamed.
So what would you like to see in that situation? And is it also a setback that police officers are actually not allowed to carry arms?
No, to carry up arms. You see, the Nigerian society, Nigerian citizens, they don't want to see that the police are there to intimidate with armed. People are scared to come to vote. That maybe get them scared, and they will not. When they are scared, they'll be disenfranchised. They will not come free and be free to come and vote. They want to change that maybe then makes as if the electors are being intimidated to be free to come and free. It's something that you want to express your freedom to vote whomsoever you like.
Commissioner Alobi, I think if you go down the same section 51(4), I think it finally made us understand that same remove also meant arrest, because specifically 4 says a person arrested.
Yes.
So now they come back to 4 to use the word arrest. A person arrested under this section shall be deemed to be a person taken into custody by a police officer. So remove, take away, arrest. Finally,
after the election official has asked the police to intervene.
Yes, because he just said that, the secretary said remove. And I'm saying when you get to 4 is not, they uses the word arrest.
Okay, but then the act says it's the electoral officer who will ask the police to arrest. So see, the police is kind of made to be impotent. His powers are weakened. So, like again, what I said, that what I want to advise my colleagues is that they're coming to 11 March is that access control is on layers. Access control not just there at the police station. We have what you call outer, inner. The outer, the periphery. The military can be there with arms. The next outer, which is the next level, the police can be there with arms. The next outer is the police can be there with arms. Then the inner, the police can be there without arms. With that, at the various level, if who knows come, if they beat the first level, second level, third level, they can't beat the 4th level. So these are the access control effectiveness. But when they don't leave a policeman or 2 person at the police station, no effective access control, it becomes vulnerable.
Yeah, but does the police have the capacity to be able to man at such,
of course, all is all based on planning.
That's about 3 layers that you just mentioned.
It's not only the police that policing election security.
Right.
The police also collaboration from other security agencies. The police is the lead agency. And one lacuna that I've also seen again in this country is that there is no national strategy for policing and law enforcement in this country. And that is a very big lacuna. There should be a national strategy on policing and law enforcement that will be able to guide the police, guide everything, all phases, that is the law enforcement and architecture of policing and law enforcement. They should have what should do what and at what point. That will guide everybody. But now it's all commerce affair.
So all of this is not included in the training that you provide for the policemen before they...
The training actually being carried out. They actually carried out the election security management training, which I took part myself. Sometimes go last week here, and sometimes in Enugu and other places. But then this training is not being cascaded down to the grassroots. That's what I believe. You see, when I was CP Fed Ops, I introduced lecture and parade in 4 quarters, and my IG supported me then. And this training builds capacity. Right. Training builds capacity. Training gives them the courage, the self-confidence in you. So the police should emphasize training. But again, police are handicapped in terms of poor funding. Training is capital intensive. Capital intensive, so the government has a role to play. And again, I want to add that election security, like democracy, it is participatory. The law, so the 24E of the Constitution says that it's a constitutional duty of every Nigerian citizen to assist security maintain law and order. So the citizens also have a duty to make sure that election security is...
I'm afraid we have to go. Thank you for your time as always.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's it from us here on Newsnight. The program continues in the next hour with Christian and Adesoa. They'll be analyzing the National Assembly results. I'm Sulaiman Alede.
And I am Ngozi Alebu. Thanks for staying with us.
Today, the Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program has trained over 1.5 million young African entrepreneurs. We have disbursed nearly $100 million to over 18,000 beneficiaries who have gone on to create over 400,000 jobs across Africa.
We need to do more for women in Africa. Empower a woman, you're empowering a whole society.
The Tony Elumelu Foundation gives access to a world-class business training and seed capital.
Thanks to the Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program, we've been able to structure our business and operations, but also we got the funding and financial needs to concretize it and make it happen.
This is the impact we want to achieve at the Tony Elumelu Foundation. The Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program is sector agnostic. The only thing that is important to us is your ideas. The future of Africa is in your hands.
Since 2016, Horizon Estates has delivered quality homes in and around Lekki Phase 1. We've built a reputation of creating a fine balance of affordability, prime locations, and world-class quality. Horizon Estates has delivered thousands of homes at pocket-friendly prices, and today, an opportunity to own one has come knocking on your door. You can own a 3-bedroom apartment in Lekki Phase 1 with a 79.99 million naira outright payment, or a 2-bedroom apartment opposite Lekki Phase 1 at 35.99 million naira outright payment, or you can make a 19.99 million naira initial deposit, moving immediately into your 4-bedroom maisonette by Lekki Phase 1 and pay the balance across 24 months while you live in. To become a proud owner of a quality home in Lekki Phase 1, visit hzelekki.com.
Nah. ọ bụrụ na ego a agafee nde naira 5 ebukwana ya abịa ebe a o buru ya jee n'ụlọ akụ gị bụ otu onye ọ bụkwa n'ụlọ ọrụ ọ gafee nde naira 10 buru ya jee ụlọ akụ ebukwana ya abịa ebe a sị gị nna ụlọ ara anụ nke bife sị gị buru ya jee n'ụlọ akụ maka na ngalaba Special Control Unit Against Money Laundering akpọrọ SCOMOL n'ụlọ ọrụ EFCC ekwuola ya ho ha ego agafe ha na otu a mkwuru ya mmechi ịnọ na nsogbu ma imeghị otu a ego iwu bụ $250 ụbọchị dum ịdara iwu a ma ọ bụ ụlọ ahịa gị emechie ya akwụkwọ ikikere azụmahịa gị kwanụ ejide ya napụghị ya atụọrọ ọmara na atụọrọ ofeke ofenye isi n'ọhịa.
N'aka Economic and Financial Crimes Commission bụ EFCC